This is FE Peer Review. The date is August the 14th, 2022. JTolan Media stares off into the distance. Taboo Conspiracy plays along. This is the second part of a two-part video. We looked at the first part a couple weeks back. It was video by Taboo Conspiracy in which he used pieces of work from JTolan Media and Dr. John D. We looked at Dr. John D last time, and today we're looking at JTolan Media. This video was brought to my attention by one of my viewers, Peter, who left me this comment. I appreciate the link, Peter. Thank you very much. I did go over to Taboo Conspiracy's video and leave him a comment, letting him know that I was working on this. You see it here. And now we're going to look at a brief snippet of what JTolan Media produced. Taboo Conspiracy only put a small piece of it on his video. I went to JTolan Media's channel and watched the full-length segment, and this is the snippet we're going to see.
Now in the foreground you see the Salton Sea. Okay, water comes out dark because there's hardly any infrared, and way in the distance we see that black line. That's the Sea of Cortez. And to the right shortly we will see Mount San Jacinto. The altitude around here I believe is around 25,000.
So here we see the screenshot from JTolan Media's video. We've got the Salton Sea, where I'm circling the mouse just right of center. And then above that, and stretching across the entire field of view, we have a kind of a dark gray band between this, what appears to be a cloud layer, and the sky. He's calling that the Sea of Cortez. And it might have been apparent to you in the video that it actually continues to stretch off to the left quite a considerable distance. The Salton Sea itself is quite small comparatively. Where I've got the mouse, we've got the east edge and the west edge. We'll take a look at that in Google Earth in a moment. And then we also have this screenshot, which is a flight details at around the time he must have taken that picture. Now, JTolan didn't really document much of anything. This is about it as far as we get as far as documentation. He said his height, his altitude was around 25,000 feet. This shows his altitude to be 21,700. That's what we're going to use. And it gives us a rough location of the airplane. It doesn't give us coordinates, but the intersection of roads up here is Barstow. And this is the highway that leads to Phoenix, and we're coming into LAX, so we can approximately get this location of the airplane. We see the Salton Sea where I'm circling the mouse, this darker blob here. And then southeast of that, off the bottom of the screen, would be where you find the Sea of Cortez. This area is called Baja California. So that's it as far as documentation of his view. It's not even really minimal, in my opinion, but it's all we've got, so it's what we're going to work with. All right, we're in Google Earth, and we see Las Vegas in the upper left. That's where his flight started. He's flying in a southwesterly direction to Los Angeles. We've got Barstow, where these roads cross, and he's between Barstow and the Salton Sea. I place him roughly where these red lines converge, and we'll zoom in here. Could be around where the red lines converge. It could be a little bit to the west. It could be a little bit to the northwest. In the end, from all of those different spots, it doesn't make much difference in our results. We get pretty much the same conclusion no matter which of those areas we look at. So let's take a look at some of these little red lines here. Our plane is somewhere up here where these red lines converge. And I have traced two shorter red lines. The one most leftmost, we'll call that line number 1, and then a second line number 2, a third short line number 3, and then a fourth line at the east going in the direction of southeast. We'll call that line number 4. So lines 1 and 3 basically bracket the edges of the Salton Sea as seen from his airplane. So the portion of his field of view where we see the Salton Sea is between lines number 1 and number 3. And then lines number 2 and 4, we'll zoom out, they encompass the Sea of Cortez. So we've got the line number 2 coming down and running tangent to the west side of the Sea of Cortez, and line number 4 coming east of it, tangent to the east side of the Sea of Cortez. Zoom out a little bit more so you can see some more of the geography. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to look at how much of his field of view is taken up by the Salton Sea, and if he is actually seeing the Sea of Cortez, how much of his field of view and where is that field of view in relation to the Salton Sea. In brief, the left side of your screen is west, the right side is east, so the Sea of Cortez is within the field of view of Salton Sea on the west side and extends beyond it somewhat on the east side. If we look at the total field of view for the Salton Sea, stretching from lines 1 to lines 3, we can see that the Sea of Cortez extends about half as much again to line 4. That gives us an approximate idea of how the Sea of Cortez should appear from his location relative to the Salton Sea, if he is indeed seeing the Sea of Cortez. I'm going to zoom out one more time to sort of give you a bigger picture of that. Right about there. So that's our location, that's our airplane location. If we're seeing the Sea of Cortez, it's down at the bottom center of the screen where I'm moving the mouse right now. Let's go back and look at the screenshot from his video. We've got the Salton Sea here. Let's put in a couple of guidelines for us. We've got a line that's running tangent on the west side and a line that's running tangent on the east side. Hard to say whether it's exactly there or perhaps it's in here, but that's not critical. So that there brackets our field of view of the Salton Sea. We are north and slightly west of it, and we are looking towards the southeast. Going back to Google Earth, we're north and west of the Salton Sea. We're looking in the southeasterly direction, and we have just put in lines 1 and 3. So we've got a lot of what appears to be cloud cover or haze or something, which is this pale white, and then there's a darker band, not as dark as the Salton Sea. There's a darker band and then a little bit of light again, and then we see sky. And he is claiming that this darker band, which stretches entirely across the screen here, is the Sea of Cortez. And it actually extends beyond on the left side, which would be east. If you watch his video again, you'll see that it extends quite a distance to the left and a little bit to the right as well. So he's saying that that dark band is the Sea of Cortez. That's the only evidence he's given us that we're seeing the Sea of Cortez. However, if we look at Google Earth, we see that were we actually seeing the Sea of Cortez, it would be contained within these lines, red lines 2 and 4. 2 and 4. We would not be seeing any sea to the west of the Salton Sea, and to the east it would only extend about half again as far as the field of view of the Salton Sea, and then we would be looking at desert again. That would be, relative to this image, this would be approximately our field of view for Sea of Cortez, a little bit within the western edge of Salton Sea and about halfway beyond on the east side. So if we could actually see the Sea of Cortez, it would be somewhere in here. However, this gray band that he's talking about extends all the way across the entire image. So based on that, I don't see that he can actually support his claim that we're seeing the Sea of Cortez. It's not there in the picture. What he's showing us in the picture does not support that claim. It's as simple as that. So until we have more detail, he needs to give us more detail. That's not enough. That gray band is probably just some difference in the atmospheric conditions. Could be haze from wildfires in Southern California. Could be smog. Could be rain. I don't know. Could be any number of things. Let's take a brief look at the distances we're talking about. Let's start by looking at distance from his airplane to Salton Sea. I've got it set to miles, and we are up here, and to the middle of the Salton Sea there, that's about 66 miles. Now let's take a look from that same spot to the Sea of Cortez, see what we get as a distance. And to the beginning of the Gulf there, we've got 206 miles. It would be farther if we were seeing these edges 300 miles. So somewhere between, say, 200 and 300 miles. We'll see if we can even get as far as 200 miles. And our elevation, our altitude, was 21,700 feet. We got that from the airplane data. So let's go into Walter Bisland's Earth Curve calculator and see what some of these distances mean. Here's the Earth Curve calculator. I have set refraction to 0 for the time being. Got an observer height of, 21,700 feet. I put a target distance of 200 miles. That's really not important at the moment. And a target size of 100 feet. Again, that's just to put something there. We've got refraction set to 0. This Earth Curve calculator tells us that the distance on the surface to the horizon from our location based on our height is 180.3 miles. It's with no refraction. If we input standard refraction, it goes up to 190 miles. So it doesn't really make a big difference at this altitude when we're talking about standard refraction. 180 to 190 miles is the distance to the horizon. So if we go back to Google Earth and put in a circle, I'll be generous and make it 190 miles. That really doesn't give us what we're looking for. 190 miles, we really can't see the Sea of Cortez. We can't expect to see the Sea of Cortez from that altitude, 21,700 feet on a curve. So we didn't really have any evidence we were seeing it in the picture he showed us, and we really probably shouldn't be seeing it if the surface of the Earth is curved. So until he can show us more definitive proof that we're actually seeing the Sea of Cortez instead of just a gray band that stretches much too far across the image to be the Sea of Cortez, I see no reason to accept his claim. So, Mr. JTolan Media, you did a second half of this video. That's the flight from Los Angeles up to Portland. I'm going to take a look at that next. I'm not sure if I'll bother to address anything you've got there. You've made absolutely no effort to support your claim at all. You've just simply pointed your camera at the window, and let me go back to a particular spot I'd like to share with you.
I tell you, I sure miss the flat Earth. It is just incredible. Look at that. We have been allowed to observe the world from such a vantage point. This is just incredible, folks. Just incredible. There is, man, look at that. Unbelievable. But regardless, it is just incredible. Look at that. Oh my God. I've been taking these views for granted, but now that I've returned after 2.5 years, I'm just so impressed all over again. I mean, I don't know if you guys realize how special this is, but I'm grateful for these views. Just incredible. Look at that. Man. But
Ooh, ah, ooh, wow. We see so far. That's about it. That's about what we're getting here. And there seem to be plenty of people happy to nod their heads and go along with it, apparently because he's telling them what they want to hear. He's certainly not giving them anything in the form of evidence to support his claim. But that seems to be pretty much unimportant. It's all about, ooh, ah, wow, which is basically a lot of emotional manipulation. And emotional manipulation is not how science is done. So, I'll take a look at the Los Angeles PDX segment, and if it seems interesting enough to warrant doing a video, I'll add a third one. Otherwise, I won't bother. Pretty much this is what we get in most of JTolan's videos. I'm afraid I'd just be repeating myself. Have a nice day. Remember, there's a like button down there. And do leave a comment if you've got anything to say. I'm always happy to read your comments. Bye-bye.